Guys, welcome back to my channel. Guys, in last session we saw like how to create the Spring Boot application, or apart from that we saw one very important thing in the market. So that is how to develop the REST endpoints here. Okay, so these two things we saw in last session. Now today I'll be going to show you a very important thing here. So before going ahead, let's understand the problem statement here. Okay, what I want to showcase here, so let's understand it. Okay, so guys, so these are the three APIs we created yesterday. So first one is like to get all students, so whatever student we have in database, so those to get those students, so this API is used. So when you click here, send it, so we will get the this student details. Apart from that, I have created one post API where we can add the student into a DB. Okay, so let me send it. So added successfully. Now when we go back and hit the same get all student API, so we will get the fourth record. Okay, apart from that, there is one delete API we created. So this API is used to delete the student by roll number. So I want to delete the last added student, that is 104. Okay, so that student got deleted successfully. Let me check whether it is deleted or not. Yeah, it got deleted. Okay, so these are the three APIs I created in last session. Now let's understand the problem statement here. Suppose when we are, or while we adding this student detail into a DB, suppose I pass a roll number as a null or empty, then what will happen? Let me show you like what will happen. See, it is getting added successfully, but logically if we think, okay, logically if we can think here, so this should not correct, it should not going to add inside the DB. So to avoid this kind of things, okay, to avoid this kind of, suppose I am going to add the data like empty roll number. Let's see whether it is in. So it is getting added successfully again. So let me show you like by hitting the get all student API. So see, the student getting added. So but these records are meaningless. So there is no meaning, because so there were there is no student in a school or college. So we saw these things in our college level. So every student having their own roll number. Okay, and if we try to add these things in database, so this will cause the big issue. Okay, this will create the big issue in your system. So to avoid this kind of things, okay, we need to validate the things before submitting or before dumping the data into a DB. We need to validate that data properly, whether that data is correctly or not, okay, correctly filled or not. So these things we need to validate. And how you can validate this data at API level? Yeah, we can validate that data by using the validation starter. Okay, in Spring Boot we having one starter that is used to validate your Pojo or bin. Okay, so before submitting or before dumping into the database. Now, so these details when we dump into database, so this will cause the issue. Okay, so to avoid this kind of issues, so we need to use that validation API. Now today in this session I'll be going to show you like how to validate the Pojo before adding to the database. Okay, so let me go to the code here. So as you guys all know, like this is a basic application I created where I created the controller to, and in controller I added this get, delete and post API. So like we have to add check here when we are adding student into a, okay, when we are adding student into a database here. So like student list dot add. So before that we need to check whether that student is like okay or not. So roll number is null or empty. So these all things we need to check before adding or before dumping that data into a db. Now let's see how we can do that. As I said, we can do that by using the validation API. So where that API is available, so in Spring Boot there is a starter, validation starter. We need to use that starter to to validate this kind of pojos. Let me add the starter first here. So we need to add the starter here. Okay, so how to add it? To basically dependency, and that's just in the validation. Okay, so this is the starter spring hyphen boot hyphen starter hyphen validation. So this is the starter you need to use to validate your thing. So when you add this starter, we will get the dependencies. Okay, Jakarta dependency something we will get, and in that dependency we have a different annotations. So we can put that annotation above the that particular field. Suppose you want to validate the student entity or student pojo, then you need to add the constraint above this field. Okay, above every field here. So how we can add, sorry, that validation API provide us the various different kind of annotations. So by using that we can provide or we can validate that field. How you can do that? See, when you add that field, so go and check whether it is added or not. Yeah, it is getting added. Okay, now let me use some annotation here about the fields, which field you want to validate. So above that field you need to add it. Okay, so not empty, not null. So these are the uh, like these are the annotation you can use: not empty, not blank, then not null. So this, so I'll be going to check it should not empty. Okay, then again this one also should not empty, and address also should not empty. Okay, so if you want to provide any message you can provide here. See, roll number must be, or roll number is required, you can select. Okay, so you can add the message as well here, so then client will understand these things easily, so that that person is sending or we are sending the request with with not valid data. Okay, now let's go and validate these things before adding the student. So let me go to the student service here. Before that we will add the check here. How we can add it? So let me show you, like validation dot, so build default validator factory we can get. So first we need to get the build default validator factory from the validation API. Once you got the validator factory, so get the validator. Okay, and on that validator, so let me write some transparent thing here without adding the method chaining call. And here if you can see, so this is the validate method. So under that validate method you need to pass which object you need to validate, you want to validate. So pass that object inside the, sorry, pass that object reference inside the validate method and get the constraint violation here. So this will return the constraint violation here. So if in that student pojo, so we provided some null value or empty value, in that case it will return the some constraint violation things, and based on that we can return the or we can send the data to the API here. Okay, or client here, sorry. Let me check whether it is empty or not. Is empty. If it is not empty, okay, if something will be there inside this set, then you must say, so you miss something. Okay, you miss something while sending data from the client side. Okay, let me return the false here. Okay, so this is the thing. Now let's restart the application here. Okay, it's parsing the Java. Let's wait for couple of seconds to start the application. So it started on port number 4040. Let me go to the client here and let's check the code. Now we can able to get the student here. Now let me go and check it. So what constraint we added about the Pojo? So if you go to the student, so that should not be empty. Okay, that roll number should not be empty. Let me go back to the client and pass the empty roll number. Let's see what it will see. Fail to add the student. Correct. What we get the we got like fail to add the student here. Now if I add something like 1 4, then let's see what will happen. So it will add the student. Okay, what it will do? It will add the student. Let's hit the get API. See, we can able to add this roll number because we set this roll number properly here. Now let me add some null value here. Let me try to submit null value here. Let's see again we got the fail to add student because see we cannot able to add this student inside TP because we are passing null things here. So this will cause the issue in future. So to avoid these things, validation API will be there, so which will provided by the Spring Boot startup. Okay, now let me go back and show you the another way. So see, this is the programmatic way I explained you guys. So this is the programmatic way how you can handle these things, but I don't want to use a programmatic way. I want to use another way. So is there any another way? Yes, we have another way. Like we can use the at the rate valid or at the rate validate method annotations. So this is a programmatic approach, and there is other approach, that is the annotation based approach. Now let's see how we can use the annotation based approach. So there are two annotations guys. So first one is a at the rate valid and at the rate validate. So at the rate valid annotation is a parameter level annotation. So we can add that at the rate valid annotation before your request body. Then it will internally Spring will identify or validate that student pin before proceeding the further. Okay, and there is a at the rate valid and validate annotation will be there. So we can use at the class level. So if you can see validated. Okay, so this is the another annotation. Okay, so you can use this validated annotation and you can use this valid annotation. So these two annotations are used here. So the difference is like valid annotation is used at the parameter level. Okay, and validate annotation is used at the class level annotation. So what is the difference here? So valid annotation used to validate the parameter. Okay, whatever parameter we are passing as a part of your method or as a part of your API, and validate annotation is used to validate your class details. Okay, entire class will get validated. Okay, now let me show you like this validation at the rate parameter level validation. Okay, so this is the parameter level annotation you can use here. Now let me restart the application here. It will take hardly 1 minute to start your application. Okay, it is getting started on port number 4040 here. Let me open the postman here. So this is our postman, and let's try to add this same record. Let's see what we will get. See, we will get the bad request. Why? Because request will not get processed. That's why we got the bad request, because we are passing the, see, when we are getting the 400 tests, when you are going to mistake something while sending the request, like you are passing some missing argument or missing parameter, missing pojos, some missing values, so in that case you will get the 400. Correct. Now what we are missing here, we are passing some wrong values inside the request body, so that's why we are getting the 400 here. Okay, so this is a client side error, so that's why we said return the 400. If something wrong, something went from the uh, server side, then we will get the 500 data code. But if something going wrong at client side itself, then we are getting the 400 data code. So keep this thing in mind. Now let me correct this value and try to send it. Okay, now see, added successfully. Let me go and check the whether it is added or not. 105. Yeah, the record has been added successfully, man. So this is the way, like, you can validate the data, you can validate your pojos before sending the that data into a db, or before submitting the dumping data into a db. So you can validate your pojo entities and all things, so it's up to you. Okay, so let's see the how you can use the @validate here. So yeah, okay, now let me use the validate. This is the annotation, so you can use to validate the like, this is the annotation you can use at a class level to validate your string. So you can, like, just keep not null will be here. Okay, it should not null, that student service should not null. If it is a null, then it will throw on an exception. When you initialize this class, at the time of this annotation will active, that annotation is activated, and after that it will check the that class details. Okay, so these are the things you can use, guys. So first way, parameter level way. So you can use this parameter level annotation to check or to validate your entity or your request body. Apart from that, you can use the @validate annotation to check your class level validation. Okay, or class level fits. Okay, that's all, guys. Though that's all about the validation. So I'll be going to, in next session, I'll be going to cover a few more topic about the Spring Boot API. So there are new things are there, so I'll be going to show you, I'll be going to show you in practically, so how you can use these things. So that's all, guys. Thank you for watching this session. Thanks.